What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? It is I, Randy, with RTS Mobile Gaming, bring you another awesome Sea of Conquest Pirate War video today. In today's video, we are a few days away from Season 3, and I've decided to do an in-depth guide talking about all the best skills on your Warhammer ship, okay? This is the ship you can purchase from a pack in Season 1, you can craft it in Season 2, and as you start to craft that ship, you may be asking yourself, Randy, what are the best unique skills? Great question. Let's talk about it. Here we go. I will also do another video tomorrow on the Stormbringer skills because they are very different. Let's get right to it. Warhammer, folks, and if you like this video, feel free to like and subscribe. Here we go. So, the Warhammer has some unique skills. First off, every ship you build will get one ultimate skill. The ultimate skills are unique to that specific ship. It will also get a random selection of 3 additional skills. They will come from the unique basic skills and from the general skills selection. There is no requirement on how that should be dispersed. You could get 3 general skills, you could get 3 unique skills, you could get 2 uniques and 1 general, any combination of the above, okay? So, let's start with the ultimate skills. The cost of strength is a really nice ability. This ability is going to give you the chance to reduce the enemy armor. This is not going to be as high damage as the other 2 skills that we'll talk about in a second, but this ultimate skill is very great because if you have, for example, 3,000 impact, this will reduce enemy armor by 1,532, okay, because you have the 32, plus you take the impact and divide it in half, okay? Very, very powerful if you're fighting against high armor targets like myself. I have very high armor, therefore if you hit me with an ultimate skill, this will reduce my armor for the next 5 seconds, causing all of your cutthroat skills to deal bonus damage if your impact is now higher than my reduced armor. Okay? Really great. The next skill we're going to talk about is the Fleet Sunderer. This is the can skill that is already built into the $100 Warhammer if you have purchased that in Season 1. In Season 2, this is also a great skill to have. This will trigger every 10 seconds, and if the enemy is wounded below 50% HP, it will deal bonus damage. It will actually add another 50% damage. It'll go from 200 to 300. I realize the way I described it was misleading. It'll increase its current damage by 50% by adding 100% damage. God, that sounds bad. It's going to go from 200 to 300% of your ship's damage. Okay, it's going to be really, really great. Same old trick. Now, this is the reason I'm covering this last is because it can do way more damage than Fleet Sunderer in Season 1, even though you can't get same old trick. And in the beginning of Season 2, before your heroes are leveled up to level 80 and above, Fleet Sunderer is probably going to be dealing pretty close to as much damage as same old trick, if not more. Same old trick works by copying the highest cutthroat damage ability from your heroes in the last 10 seconds and repeating the amount of damage you did. So, this is really, really interesting because if you have a hero such as Bones, okay, especially when you get later in Season 2 and you get him at level 80, his base damage is 433%. This is already double the damage from Fleet Sunderer at 200. This is more than double. And if the enemy is wounded, he does another 217% damage. So, whereas the Fleet Sunderer can do a total of 300% damage to a wounded target, if you copy Bones' attack with same old trick, you'll be doing 650% damage to that target. Okay? So, that is a very, very powerful skill to have. I actually like the same old trick more. The only difference is it doesn't trigger right away. You have to wait until you trigger the rage skill. So it's a slight delay, but then after 2 or 3 rotations, it far exceeds the damage you would deal with Fleet Sunderer. Okay, where did I go? I don't even know where I went. Let's go back to the shipbuilding skills. Okay. Those are the ultimates. So the best one, in my opinion, is going to be same old trick. The next best one is Fleet Sunderer, and then the next best one is the cost of strength with the armor penetration. Okay. Into the unique skills, folks. Weakness detection, 14% damage. This is really great. This is probably best in slot for cutthroat build. Next, you have Kingpin Strategy. This has 6% attack and 9% cutthroat damage. This is second best in slot on a cutthroat build. And if you can get both of these, you are doing okay. Okay. Pent Up Rage is also really amazing. This is going to really depend on your build. If you're running a very high critical rate build already to counter enemies with critical strike resistance, this is sort of a useless skill for you. But if you are going to run yourself at 50 or 60% critical strike chance, you may be facing enemies with 40, 50, 60% critical strike resistance. This will help you land a guaranteed critical strike after a few ultimate rotations. So let's just say you have a Kojo in here and a Bones and a Luna. Luna hits with her ultimate, then she hits again with an ultimate, neither one crits. And then maybe Kojo goes, hits with his first ultimate, and then the ultimate proc, maybe he doesn't crit. Now you have 4 stacks of this for when Bones lands as his ultimate. Really, a lot of great things can happen here. Okay, Pent-Up Rage is really great depending on the setup you have for your ship. And then last we have Warlust Blaze, okay? Warlust Blaze is absolutely amazing. It gives you an 8% bonus cutthroat damage to start, and then every 10 seconds for the next 20 seconds you will get another 8%. It's going to stack 3 times. So after 20 seconds you are going to have 24% cutthroat damage bonus here. Best in slot for sure. The best build you could possibly have on the Warhammer would be the same old trick. Plus weakness detection. Plus the Kingpin strategy. Plus the Warlust Blaze. These are the absolute best skills you could possibly have on the Warhammer. But there are a lot of other great skills depending on the build you're running and the opponents you're facing, okay? So like I said, Pent-Up Rage is really great if you're fighting folks that have crazy high crit resistance. Like me, my Stormbringer is at 68% crit resistance. So if you don't have 68% critical strike chance, you're not even going to crit my Stormbringer. It's invincible to crits. Okay. General skills. These are going to help you balance the build. You're most likely not going to get all 3 of these skills. The probability of you getting all 3 of those it could happen, but you are probably going to get a mixture of all of these skills. Okay. So that's where we're going to cover the rest of them. Now, the general skills are available on any ship you craft, whether it's the Warhammer or the Stormbringer or the additional ships that come out in Seasons 3 and 4. They all have the general skills in their pool, okay? Pure Gunpowder is great, 12% attack, not too bad, not quite as good as 14% damage, but pretty decent. Armor Piercing. This is going to be really great if you're fighting opponents like me that have insanely high armor. This is going to help your impact go way through the roof, especially if you're running a Blade of Freedom set. Okay, it's going to help you kill folks with crazy armor. Thunderous Fury. 12% damage of all types. This is going to be slightly worse for you than Weakness Detection. However, the only difference is this is going to increase the damage of your ship's basic attack. Therefore, Weakness Detection is going to boost all your cutthroat damage. Thunderous Fury is going to boost all of your damage by 12%, including the basic attack. At the end of the day, it's probably pretty close to Weakness Detection and Kingpin strategy. So if you did happen to get Weakness Detection and Thunderous Fury, keep the Thunderous Fury. It's still really, really good. It's going to be very close in overall value for your entire damage compared to Weakness and Kingpin, okay? They're all very close. Keep that in mind. Stealthy Maneuvers. This is kind of useless on your Warhammer. It's not terrible since a lot of people's Warhammers die first, but I personally would not like to trade, for example, this 12% damage of all types for a chance to not get hit by enemy basic attacks on their ships. I'm going to hope that my flagship generates enough aggro so the basic attacks mostly hit my flagship. I don't need to reduce my aggro anymore, especially because if you're using Bones, Bones already has a skill that reduces your ship's aggro. Okay? It's not terrible, but it's really not. It'll help you live a little bit longer, but it's really not great. Okay? Art of War. This is 10% attack and 10% damage to non-player types. This is not the best skill. It's not terrible, but it's not the best skill for PvP. It is one of the best skills for like gang raids and squad raids and things like that. War Tactics. This is 25% damage to non-player ships. Okay? This, again, is going to be useless in PvP. You don't really want either one of these. Art of War is not awful because it does have 10% attack. If you have this, maybe you want to keep it. You know, if you compare that to 12% attack on Pure Gunpowder, there's not a massive difference. But it's obviously not best in slot, so just keep that in mind, okay? Deadly Broadside and Large Caliber Broadside. These are very similar. They both give 8% attack, and one gives crit rate. One gives crit damage. Really depends on your build and who you're fighting. You don't know what the enemy critical strike resistance is going to be, okay? I've seen people at over 70% because they had some great affix rolls in the substats on their ship parts. If you are fighting someone that has 70% crit resistance, you probably want a little bit more crit rate. Critical damage is also nice on paper. When you equip 10% critical damage, it gives you way more power than 5% critical strike rate. But again, critical strike damage is only good if you can land a critical hit. So I try to keep all of my high damage ships at 90% or above critical strike rate. Really depends where you're at with your gear and your trinkets and all your other stuff with your heroes, okay? Enhanced armor piercing. Now this is potentially a more balanced version than precise armor piercing, which gives you pure impact. This gives you attack and impact. This might be slightly more valuable for you. If you're running Blade of Freedom, you're already getting a huge impact bonus, 15%. So having another 12% might be enough to penetrate anybody's armor. It really depends. Again, this really just depends on who you're facing. If you're facing a mega tanky, high armor, crit resistance dude like me, you might prefer the full 24% impact. But if you're fighting similar people and you just want to make sure that you have more impact than they have armor so they don't reduce your damage, this is a good balance there. Preemptive Strike. God, I hate this skill so much. This is one of the worst skills you can have. It sounds really great. The first ultimate you deal is going to deal 30% bonus damage, okay? After that, the next the next skill, okay? And let me actually back this up. It is going to deal 30% damage for all your stuff on your ship. So that includes your couple basic attacks leading up to the first skill, and then your first skill will deal 30% bonus damage. Then it drops by 6% to 24. Okay. Then it drops by 6% to 18. Then it drops by 6% to 12. Then it drops by 6% for a fourth time, and then you end up, after dealing 4 raid skills, only getting a 6% damage bonus on this ship. So this is maybe good in 1v1 straights, but if you're like out there on the field trying to kill people and you end up with only 6% bonus damage after the first 4 skills, which does not take a long time, by the way. That's each hero triggering a skill once and then someone triggering a skill again. So you could be out of the woods here in 10-15 seconds. Would you rather have 6% damage for the rest of that 2-minute fight if you're fighting a lot of folks, or would you rather have a 14% damage bonus, right? So, interesting in 1v1. Maybe it's good in 1v1 straights. You can kill, get some real damage out there. But you also want to keep in mind that the cutthroat damage abilities, most of them deal bonus damage to enemies that are wounded. That means below 50% HP. So by the time you're dealing bonus damage, you no longer have this big damage bonus, okay? Shotgun weapons. This is really interesting. I love this skill for artillery ships, and that is it. This only after a lot of testing. We did a lot of testing, a lot of testing here in Season 2. Splash damage. In fact, I created a Warhammer that has this skill on it. Splash damage appears to only affect basic attacks. Whenever I triggered an ultimate skill, I did not get a damage number splashing to enemy ships. When I did a basic attack, I did get a damage number splashing to enemy ships. Okay? Therefore, this is good if you're on a ship that has high basic attack skills, such as artillery. Not great for cutthroat, where you don't really care about the basic attack. So if you have this, you may want to get rid of it. Last Stand. This is a very interesting skill. This one's kind of scary. In fact, I think they nerfed it in an update. I'm pretty sure it used to be 15% crit rate and then a 5% reduction in crit resistance. It's now 12%. I didn't even notice that until this video right now. It used to be 5. I'm 95% sure. This is very interesting. It's a double-edged sword. I love having 15% critical strike rate, believe me. But having 12% reduced critical strike resistance means you are taking a lot more critical strikes. And that's really the only way to describe that. So it could be really good. Just keep in mind, you may get obliterated a little bit quicker. If you're not running a critical resistance build and you're fighting against enemies that have 100% or higher critical strike chance, it doesn't really matter because they're going to crit on you anyways. This could be a great skill if you're not running any critical resistance on anything else. this skill isn't going to really hurt you against enemies that have high crit rate already. You have your inherent 20% critical strike chance already. Okay, so they are already, I don't know why I said that. You understand. Okay, glass cannon. This is also really interesting. This increases the ship's impact by 30%, but it reduces your armor by 15%. Really interesting. Also, terrible. Terrible, terrible, terrible. Okay, why would you use this and gain 6% more impact than precise armor piercing and trade it for 15% armor reduction? All I'm trying to do in Season 2 is find ways to boost my frickin' Warhammer armor. Terrible skill. If you have this, just delete the goddamn ship. I'm just kidding. You can re-roll and refine one skill. Please refine this skill immediately. Defensively, offensively. Now, this is actually a really interesting skill. I do like this skill quite a bit. This might be one of my favorite skills, but it's interesting. So you deal bonus damage when your HP is above 50%, and you take reduced damage when you drop below 50%. Okay, so this is obviously comparable to Thunder's Fury while you're above half health. And once you drop below half health, it is one of the only defensive skills that are available on a ship. And since you're Warhammer, you want it to live for a long time. If it starts getting thunderclapped in PvP, which happens sometimes, you may really find that this 12% damage reduction is pretty nice. So I would actually value this skill. I would consider this potentially a best in slot skill. Okay, because if your Warhammer is going to die, it would definitely be nice to die a little bit slower. Okay, so we'll just leave it at that. Heavy artillery. This skill is also insanely interesting to me. However, since it reduces the number of basic attacks you do and increase the damage, this is going to be great for an artillery build that makes your ship trigger a bunch of basic attacks. This skill pairs very nicely with the shotgun skill, okay? Because if you're doing basic attacks, it would be great to do splash damage to enemy fleets with basic attacks. However, not good on the Warhammer. This is terrible on a non-artillery ship. Get rid of it. Revenge Fervor. This is like a worse version of shotgun weapons. This only does a bunch of splash damage if multiple fleets are attacking you. Okay? I'd rather have shotgun weapons that does splash damage to everybody I'm attacking versus Revenge Fervor that does bonus damage when people are focus firing me. They are both interesting. I don't hate them both. I like them both. But again, this is going to be only basic attack damage. Therefore, it only really matters when you're doing a basic attack. Okay? So, useless for the Warhammer, just like shotgun weapons. Now, let's talk about the best ship build in the game. Again, I already told you, same old trick, plus weakness detection, plus the Kingpin strategy, plus Warlust Blaze. Those are the best skills. But the two skills you really want to have no matter what are going to be the Warlust Blaze and either the same old trick or the Fleet Sunderer. However, you can substitute the weakness detection and the Kingpin strategy for several other skills down below. Okay, Pure Gunpowder is not terrible. Thunder's Fury is pretty close. You have defensively, offensively, which might even be better than those skills in some situations. Really, really great. And then some of these other skills like the attack with critical rate and attack with critical damage. Those are other great skills you can have as well. And lastly, again, I want to circle back to the impact. I am running a very high armor build on most of my ships. So having a little bit of bonus impact can go a long way. Okay, so that's it. If you have liked this video, please feel free to like and subscribe, folks. I love you long time. Randy, out.